Welcome, everyone. My name is Rick Kwasniewski. I am the chairman of the Pace Suburban Bus. Apologize for that. On behalf of myself and the board of directors and more than 1,500 employees at Pace, we welcome you to our newest transit center in downtown Joliet. We've got plenty of people to thank, which I'll go through here in a minute. We certainly want to welcome U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who's with us here today. We're honored to have you here. Governor J.B. Pritzker, thank you. And also to the General Assembly for your leadership on Rebuild Illinois funding, which made this project possible. Congressman Foster is with us here today. Thank you very much for your support on the infrastructure bill. It's been very important to Pace for big increases in federal funding for projects moving forward. And a big thank you and a special thank you to Mayor Bob Odekirk from the city of Joliet, who was our partner on this project and is a great facility for not only us, but connecting to trains as well. So thank you for that partnership and everything that you've done for us as well. I'm going to recognize a number of the officials that are with us here today. County Executive Jennifer Bertine-Tarrant is here with us as well. And she also was a former senator who supported Rebuild Illinois and was instrumental in bringing funds for this project as well. Mimi Cohn is here, Speaker of the Will County Board. Meda Mueller, Majority Leader for the Will County Board, is here. Omer Osmond, the Secretary of Transportation, is here. Welcome, Omer. Kelly Brockling from the FTA administrators here. I don't know where she is. She's in the back. And then I've got a couple of board members here with us today. Roger Clare, who is the Will County representative for the Pace Board of Directors. Chris Canning, who represents part of Cook County, is with us here. And then Jeff Schelke is also here, the mayor of Batavia, but he also represents Kane County. An interesting fact, Mr. Secretary, all of our board members are either mayors or former mayors. So we've got something in common with you.
That's a good plan.
Again, I want to thank, I can't thank enough Secretary Buttigieg and the Biden administration and Representative Foster for all the help that they've done with the infrastructure bill. This bill not only provides major funding for our operations, but also starts us on a path for zero-emission vehicles, which ties perfectly into the Pace's board adoption last year of our commitment to convert our entire fleet to zero emissions by 2040. Our first electric buses, 20 of them are on order. They'll be in at the beginning of the year. But better yet, we've got one actually arriving next week that we'll be able to test and utilize during the next few months. So we're very excited about that. This new transit facility fits right in with the infrastructure bill, and that basically it historically serves an underserved population, which is in line with the administration's Justice 40 initiative. This transit center, located here in Joliet, is a considerable improvement for our 600 riders per day. This is a $9.7 million project that was funded in large part by Rebuild Illinois and Pace, and also the city of Joliet. Special thanks again to the city of Joliet and the entire staff. We're very excited that everyone is here today, and we can't wait to hear from our other speakers regarding Pace and the city of Joliet and transit. So with that, I'm going to welcome Denise Winfrey, who's a commissioner with the Will County Board. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And what Rick didn't say is that I'm here on behalf of NACO, the National Association of Counties, representing 3,069 counties, parishes, and boroughs across the United States. I actually live here in Joliet, so I parked in the other lot, walked over here. I walked under the tunnel across the new cobblestone. When I went to Joliet Central, I walked through that same tunnel over the original cobblestone to get home from here. So it's really exciting to be here, to be able to see the changes in the area, see the upgrades, and to experience that firsthand. And what we know from the work that's being done here, that multiplied across the county, parishes, boroughs, counties are doing upgrades to their infrastructure, to their bridges, to their roads, to their communities to support our nation's residents. We are thankful for the infrastructure bill. We're lucky to have the opportunity to build back better, and we're grateful for that. But we're especially grateful here in Will County because we're in the middle of everything, especially here. And we thank you for opportunity to improve our infrastructure, our roads, and our bridges. Thank you. Sorry. And now it is my pleasure to introduce my congressman, U.S. Congressman Bill Foster.
Thank you, Denise, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Congressman Bill Foster. I'm a scientist and a businessman, and I'm proud to represent the 11th Congressional District of Illinois, including Joliet and Will County in the U.S. House of Representatives. It's a pleasure to be here today also with Secretary Buttigieg, and I want to thank him for taking the time here out of his busy schedule to visit Joliet today. I also want to thank Governor Pritzker for being here, too. Thank you to the PACE team for inviting us to mark the opening of this brand new transportation center, a perfect example of the historic infrastructure investments that are finally being made at all levels of government. And thank you to all of the local leaders who've joined us today. This new transportation center is going to be an important resource for the Joliet community and make it easier for people to get around the greater Joliet area. Our communities here in the southern and western suburbs continue to grow as more and more people choose to live here. With a growing population, we need to make sure that we're keeping up with the demand for safe and reliable public transportation options, and that's what this new transit center represents, a new state-of-the-art hub for our community to be proud of. You know, mobility is so important, especially out here in the far suburbs, making it easier and more efficient for people to get to work, school, doctor's appointments, shopping centers, restaurants. It won't just benefit the passengers, but it will have a positive economic impact to the community as well. Projects like these rely on strong partnerships and working relationships from local government and community groups up to the federal government. Modernizing and enhancing our nation's transportation infrastructure is one of the most important things that we can do to support the economic growth of communities like ours. Secretary Buttigieg knows that, and he knows just how important reliable, safe, and efficient transportation systems are, specifically to the Midwest, where so many goods pass through as they make their way across the country or arrive for final manufacture at factories like the Lion Electric school bus factory that's being set up in Joliet this summer. I want to thank the Secretary for his role in getting the Bipartisan Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act signed into law. Thanks to this law, $4 billion is coming to Illinois to improve public transportation resources like bus systems and railways. And that's on top of the $11.2 billion to repair roads and bridges, which our state, everyone in our state understands how important this is to make things safer for cars, trucks, and buses. Perhaps nowhere in the country is the need to fix our crumbling roads and bridges more apparent than it is less than a mile from here at the I-80 bridge over the Des Plaines River. And in fact, Secretary Buttigieg is well aware of that. He's, I guess, a couple of stops down on the main street of the Midwest, I-80, and dealing with many of the same infrastructure challenges. And thanks to these critical infrastructure investments that I proudly voted for, along with my colleagues, we can finally make the generational investments in our transportation infrastructure that we desperately need. And now, I'm honored to introduce Governor J.B. Pritzker, who also had a hand in prioritizing the I-80 bridge over the Des Plaines.
Well, thank you so much, Congressman Foster, and especially thank you for bringing home the bacon for the residents of your district and for the entire state of Illinois. Working families have Bill Foster to thank for much of the federal support that makes Joliet and surrounding communities one of the fastest growing areas in the entire Midwest. In the year before I became governor, Illinois had not passed a capital bill in almost a decade. You can't grow an economy if your roads and your bridges and your airports are deteriorating. When your infrastructure is crumbling with no sign of any major improvement, businesses looking to relocate here and families thinking about where they want to raise their children were wary about putting down roots in Illinois. So it was time for a change. And in 2019, I proposed Rebuild Illinois, one of the largest infrastructure investment programs anywhere in the nation, thanks to the General Assembly, thanks to the then Senator, now Chair of Will County. We were able to get that law passed, and I was able to sign it into law, and it has already repaired over 3,500 miles of roads across Illinois and nearly 350 bridges across our state. And it has allowed cities and counties all across our state to build new sidewalks and new bike paths and upgrade sewage and water lines. And of course, we're taking every opportunity to connect people with jobs and economic development through multimodal transportation, which is what brings us here to Joliet today. The state of Illinois is really proud to dedicate nearly $40 million to the Joliet Multimodal Transportation Center, support made possible in part by Rebuild Illinois. This hub will serve as an access point for intra-city transit, Amtrak and Metro service, and the PACE service that we celebrate today. This comes as the Joliet area receives $1.4 billion in state investment for highway construction, one of the biggest concentrations of Rebuild Illinois projects in the entire state. Investments like these do more than just connect cities. They allow our residents to access opportunities beyond their immediate neighborhoods, to streamline regional collaborations, and to open doors for new jobs and new businesses. And take note of this. This time last year, I joined the Lion Electric, as Congressman Foster mentioned, to announce the opening of the company's first ever U.S. manufacturing plant right here in Joliet, which will have 1,400 new jobs in the clean energy sector right here in our state for our future. I was just there the other day, actually, and I can tell you that they are this close to being able to actually produce those vehicles and run them off the line and into service. And I'm very proud to see that the work that we did to bring them here to the state is now resulting in sales and opportunity and jobs. It's a real honor to join local and federal officials today to mark yet another milestone for this region. And with that, I'm very proud to turn it over to one of America's favorite former mayors and an incredible advocate for modernizing our infrastructure, a great Midwesterner, our U.S. Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg.
Well, thank you very much, Governor. Illinois is fortunate to have a governor who recognizes the importance of infrastructure investment, and I can tell you the infrastructure investments that this state has chosen to make position Illinois very well for the federal investments that we are going to be able to take to the next level after years, even decades of promises around Washington, thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law. And I want to thank Congressman Foster and his colleagues for helping to make that a reality. I want to acknowledge the entire PACE team and PACE Chair Kwasniewski. With a name like that, you would very much get along well in South Bend, Indiana. And you and your team have done phenomenal work helping people to get to where they need to be. I want to thank the mayor for the leadership. Every mayor I see, I think about how the job has only become more demanding since I've had it, but also for that partnership. You can feel the alignment between city, county, state, and federal players here in the transit agency, and that can make all the difference. Likewise for the county executive, for Commissioner Winfrey, and everybody who had a hand in making this possible. I was really thrilled just moments ago to join the leaders here to cut the ribbon on this Joliet Gateway Center station. And I'm so pleased to see how this facility is going to improve daily life for the commute of so many people across the region. One of the things I've been reflecting on is how transportation touches one of the most basic and important parts of our daily lives, which is our commute. And the commute has not always been an easy one, especially for people who had to walk blocks between transfers, who had to wait outside in the elements, and otherwise found that their workday began on unpleasant terms sometimes, thanks to the disinvestment of past generations that has now been replaced by a commitment to investment for the future. That means that people are going to be able to get to new jobs in and around Joliet or downtown Chicago or anywhere in this region. Because bus lines, Metra that's passing by us right now, or is that Amtrak? Well, Metra and Amtrak, as well as the bus lines, are all going to be better able to connect. In America, your ability to get to where you need to be shouldn't depend on your income. It shouldn't depend on driving a car. Bus riders deserve to get to doctor's appointments and jobs and loved ones without spending 30 minutes in the snow or half an hour in blistering heat, just as drivers can do. And that's especially important knowing that those who have depended on transit, just as those who have operated transit, are the very definition of the essential workers that we have counted on so much over the past 2 years, counted on the whole time, but have learned to appropriately refer to as essential workers more recently. And at a time like this, when the U.S. economy has seen employment rebound to the point that many businesses are looking for new workers, transportation is one of the things that can enable the economic growth that we need to see going forward. And of course, even for those who do use a car to get to where they're going, investments in transit are a good thing because that means less congestion on the road for everybody else. And that also means less pollution, less particulate matter, fewer health problems associated with that, and a jump start on our ability to confront climate change. And because of President Biden's infrastructure law, the kinds of investments you're seeing right here will soon be possible around the country through the entire decade ahead. So again, I want to thank members who supported this in both chambers, like Congressman Foster, for helping to get that over the finish line. In March, we were able to announce nearly $1.5 billion to fund electric buses, to fix old facilities, to improve service so that more people can get to their jobs more reliably. And that is the largest ever investment in that program, one piece of a bigger investment, which is the largest ever federal commitment to public transit in U.S. history. So to anybody who is in this community or anywhere in Illinois or around the country, know that more investment is on the way, and know that your voices are going to matter. Because partnerships with transit agencies and state and local authorities are actually going to drive the majority of the use of these dollars. So again, I want to end by congratulating everyone who is here on this important milestone, thank them for their great work, and recognize that this is just the beginning of what the future of American infrastructure looks like. And with that, I think we have a little bit of time for questions. Ben Hero, quarterback. Yes?
Secretary Buttigieg, how satisfied are you with the pace of the public acceptance of electric vehicles and the rollout of charging stations, which also, and frankly, corporate acceptance of electric?
So what we've seen is that the automotive industry and the world are headed in the zero emissions direction. They're headed toward electric. There's no question of that. The question is, will it happen quickly enough to defeat the climate crisis? Will it happen equitably enough that everybody gains from the cost savings of electric vehicle use or ownership? And will it happen in a way that is made in America? That's why I'm so excited to hear about the companies taking root here, like the school bus manufacturer and a company producing fuel cells for heavy trucks. The pace cannot be fast enough. We'll never say it's going too fast. But we recognize that a lot of work goes into that. This is a complex transition from an industry and a transportation sector that was used to working a certain way for about 100 years. We got to do our part to make sure that we accelerate and facilitate that transition. That's why we're doing things like investing $5 billion in a nationwide network that each state is going to present its piece of, to have charging stations around the country. It's why we're working to make sure electric vehicles are more affordable, and it's why we're looking beyond personally owned vehicles to transit with this ambitious investment in low-emission vehicles there, too.
Governor Pritzker, Illinois was recently given a C- for infrastructure, so with the billions that's being spent, what's being done to improve that grade? Because obviously, the state's still kind of lagging behind.
So let me start by saying that the organization that issues that report card has a financial interest in doing work. So you should at least know that as some background for the grade that they gave us. CNBC named Illinois as the #1 state in the entire nation for infrastructure. So I'll take that grade. And look, we're working very hard to make sure that our infrastructure bill is building as fast as possible as many of our roads and bridges, our airports, our waterways. This is a state that has more transportation assets and more capability infrastructure than really any other state. We have all 7 railroads coming through Illinois. We're able to move cargo. We have the fastest growing cargo airport in the entire world in Rockford, and we have some of the largest airports, international and national airports. So I'm pleased with the pace of the investment that we're making and the recognition that we're getting from places like CNBC.
As somebody who lives here locally, can you kind of speak to the progress you're making in Joliet and surrounding areas as far as I-80? You mentioned the bridge. Can you speak to the progress that's going on in Joliet?
Sure. I can say that a massive amount of investment is going particularly into I-80 to make sure that that is safe. It has been deemed in prior years as a relatively unsafe bridge and area, and over the course of miles of replacement, we're going at a reasonably good pace to get it done. We believe that it will be one of the safest areas to drive in the state. And then just broadly speaking, and I talked about some of it in my remarks, we're making investments in every kind of mode of transportation here in Will County and here in Joliet, because we know that this is one of the fastest growing areas for manufacturing, for distribution, for transportation in the entire Midwest.
Governor, you're here, you were in Harvey earlier at the Sibley Metro stop. How much of the $45 billion Rebuild Illinois program has been spent?
Well, we're spending billions per year. There's about $32 billion in our $45 billion infrastructure bill that's focused on transportation and, as I say, surface, air, water. And I would say that, roughly speaking, about $5 to $6 billion is getting spent each year to go into these projects. Some of it obviously isn't dependent upon just us saying we want the dollars out the door. It's also dependent on making sure that the projects that we're doing are prioritized in our multi-year plan so that we're getting to the safety issues first. And then, of course, making sure that we're addressing the commercial need for upgrades.
So would that be roughly $15 billion in the first 3 years? 5?
So I can't. We have our transportation state. Yeah, so what's happening is, and we're in, roughly speaking, about 2.5 years in. We passed the bill about mid-2019, and you've got to ramp up to be able to get the dollars out the door with all the plans, engineering plans. But suffice to say that the pace that you need to go at to get this done is the pace that we're at.
State and federal level, what's being done to ensure that these investments won't just be for the next 5-6 years, but we're going to see this type of investment in infrastructure for years to come?
Well, we have the dollars. I'll talk about the state level, and then I'll turn it over back to the Secretary. We have the dollars at the state level in our Safe Roads Trust Fund in the state from motor fuel tax that help us to pay for maintaining our roads. The upgrade in our Rebuild Illinois plan helps us continue to invest. We no longer really have to think about once every 10 years doing a capital bill and then figuring out where we're going to find resources. We've got to continually upgrade and maintain these assets, and that's really the goal of the Rebuild Illinois plan.
So on the federal side, I'd say we have two things going on at once. We have the regular funding that's needed, and then we have the need for a once-in-a-generation infusion of funds, both to make up for lost time and to set us up well for the future. I think that we're going to be relying on the infrastructure we build over the next few years with these dollars for the rest of our lifetimes, and that's precisely why we've taken this opportunity so seriously. It has literally been decades, more than half a century, since we've seen investment happen at this level across America, whether we're talking about roads and bridges, trains and transit, airports and ports. But with these dollars, we're going to be developing infrastructure that generations of Americans will depend on.
We've got time for one more question.
The high-speed rail, high-speed
So thanks to the investments that are available in this bill, we think we will be able to add new high-speed rail capacity in the U.S. Now, let me be clear, that's not the same thing as a fully complete nationwide network. That really is the project of a generation. But with the dollars that we have, we can make sure that we address the maintenance backlog that Amtrak has. We can get new facilities, new rail cars and locomotives for Amtrak and support other rail lines and railroads around the country, eliminate grade crossings, which are a big issue for freight and passenger rail alike, and begin to deliver on new high-speed routes as well. And I think seeing is believing. Once, even on just one or two more routes in America, Americans see what high-speed rail can deliver in terms of not just convenience, but economic power for the United States, there's going to be no going back and a lot more where that came from. Thanks again for the chance to be here. Really appreciate it. Congratulations, everyone.